And we welcome you to the special edition of In the Circle live here on Championship Saturday. I'm Eric Lopez live at Seven Park in Oklahoma City, where in about 2 hours, it'll be the Big 12 Championship between the Arizona Wildcats taking on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Back in the studios is one Victor Anderson. Back down in Florida, we got a loaded show coming up in about 15 minutes. Don't we? Yeah, Vic. We got in 15 minutes. We're going to be joined by D1 Softball's own Jeff Brown. He's in West Lafayette. He's been covering the Big Ten championships. Of course, that will be UCLA and Michigan today in the championship game. At about 10:30, we'll be joined by Jenna Becerra, our very own Jenna Becerra, who is in somewhere in Chestnut Hill in Boston, where the ACC tournament is taking place. A lot of chatter there. It'll be Florida State Clemson, the ACC title game. We'll preview that. At about 11 Eastern, we'll be joined by the great Amanda Lorenz, our very own Amanda Lorenz, Florida Gator great. She is up in Athens, Georgia, where her and Justin McLeod are covering the SEC tournament. Of course, it'll be the championship game. Oklahoma will take on Texas A&M. And Victor, we have news for those that may not be aware this morning of some scheduling changes involving a couple of those championship games.
Yes, for those of you who were not with us last night, first of all, watch the recap, but we did confirm that the Oklahoma-Texas A&M game is going to be a 1 p.m. first pitch in Athens due to the threat of inclement weather, and the game will be on the SEC network. So make your plans accordingly there. Secondly, just announced by Clemson within the last 5 minutes before we went on live, the ACC championship game will now be starting at 3 o'clock instead of 2:30. So make your plans accordingly. SEC is at 1 on the SEC network. The ACC championship game now 3 o'clock first pitch. But of course, for all the latest things going on in softball, make sure you visit the new and improved D1Softball.com, where we got championships left and right. We got games already starting, sir. We got action going on in the Big South with USC Upstate and Winthrop. We got the NEC tournament that actually got delayed due to what got washed out yesterday. They're starting their games that was supposed to be played yesterday. And then, of course, you see the conference championship starting in earnest at 11:30 with the SWAC. And, of course, where Eric will be at Oklahoma City, and the American with USF in North Texas. Go to the newly improved D1Softball.com for all the latest information there. And make sure you visit and use promo code NEWLOOK20 to save 20% off of your annual subscription to D1Softball.com. So, Mr. Lopez, as we get ready, as games are actually starting, as we're going to you live this morning, your initial thoughts going into this championship Saturday, and what are some of the big storylines that you're looking forward to going into this day?
Well, let's remind the audience, of course, send your comments and questions to us on the chat, and Victor will read off the questions as well as me. I can sort of check it out as well, but certainly I am on the phone in the booth here at Devon Park, so because we had some delays on the last night's show, so we were doing some tech stuff. So,
but look, fans coming in early, Mr. Lopez. They are ready to rock and roll with us on this Saturday. And by the way, we want to remind everybody as well, we will be doing a championship Saturday wrap-up show, 10:30-ish tonight. Follow our socials.
No, it might be a little earlier. We might be a little early. We may need to move it up.
Might be a little earlier, so we will.
Since the championship games are all kind of ending earlier, so that might be a good thing there. Take advantage. One of us has a red eye taking in the morning flight, so from that standpoint, that would be me.
Here's a hint.
Well, so let's talk about it. I think let's kind of go through some of the conference championship game storylines. We've talked about the Power Four. We'll talk about that with our guests and our staff here throughout the show. But other championship games of note, the American Conference Championship game, North Texas versus South Florida is the championship game. North Texas knocked off Florida Atlantic, the regular season champion, yesterday. So, and this is interesting because this could affect the bubble.
If South Florida wins, I have South Florida projected in the field already, so it wouldn't impact, I think, the field too much. If North Texas wins, now that gets interesting. FAU is going to be in the regional. The RPI this morning is 31. South Florida, where does their RPI drop? They have 3 top 50 wins. They're in the bubble at that point. I would still put them in, but that's not guaranteed in that one. Other notables. Over the Mountain West Championship, Nevada was knocked off twice yesterday. It's a double elimination format out there in San Diego. Fresno State beat them, and then San Diego State eliminated Nevada. Nevada this morning, as I look, dropped to 40 in the RPI. They're in trouble. They only have 2 top 50 wins, which was against San Diego State in the conference series in the regular season. They might be on the outside looking in. Fresno State is in the pun intended, Vic, catbird seat.
Yes.
To win and steal a bid potentially against San Diego State. San Diego State's going to have to win twice to win the automatic bid. If Fresno State wins, in my opinion, they basically take I think what will happen is I think they're going to take Nevada's spot, because I had 2 bids from the Mountain West going into this week. I think San Diego State will be in. Their RPI actually is at 30 going into this morning. And I think the good news for them is Fresno State's RPI, I believe, was 61 when I checked this morning. So it doesn't hurt them as much.
Right.
Plus, they have good resume wins, including recently against Arizona, as recent as a couple of weeks ago. So I think San Diego State will be okay. They may have to go back to Los Angeles for a regional as a result of not winning the conference tournament, but that's a whole other story. Who knows?
The last time San Diego State was in Los Angeles, Eric, it ended pretty well for Stacey.
No, that was 2 years ago. Last year, it didn't end as well.
Time before that, it ended pretty well.
Yeah. So those are a couple of things. The other one, the USA Championship game, it'll be Liberty against Jacksonville State. It's a 1-game championship game. It'll be on CBS Sports Network. Our friend Kaylin Arnold, I believe, will be doing the analyst work for that one. If you're a bubble team, you're rooting for Liberty. If Liberty loses to Jacksonville State, that's going to steal a bid from somebody, because Liberty's going to be in. Their RPI is 27-28 when I checked this morning. So those are some of the other conference championship games. The Sun Belt Championship game is Coastal Carolina against James Madison, which has found themselves. Coastal Carolina is 41 in the RPI. I still believe they have to win this game to get that's their best path. They have 9 quad 4 losses. I don't believe they will get in as an at-large. If they lose this championship game, they would still be in the mix. But I think if you're a Coastal Carolina fan, you prefer to win the championship. But quite frankly, if you are a bubble team, you're just rooting for Coastal Carolina, if for nothing else, to eliminate a potential challenger for your spot. So that's a big championship game, and JMU's turned things around. So I think those are some of the championship games to watch that will impact the at-large, the bubble situation from that standpoint. Certainly BYU of the Big 12, kind of hoping for some chalk here and maybe some things to take place. We'll see. But I think it's a very murky situation. It's either going to clear up a little bit depending on some of the results today, or it could get really messy for the last couple of spots for this field of 64 for the 2025 NCAA tournament. As far as the hosting is concerned, Vic, I think we've got 14, probably 15 spots locked up for hosting, including the 2 teams I'm going to see on this field. I'm not going to turn it around to the field because it is right, man. It is beautiful.
Eric had to wear his sunglasses while we were doing our test before we went on live today to adjust his location. The sun is shining, and it's going to be shining
I was hoping to show the backdrop to be the stadium, but as our pre-production, the sun kind of did not allow that. That's how bright it is.
No, it did not.
Early with this 11 a.m. start time, Central Time Zone here. But both of these teams, Texas Tech and Arizona, should host. This morning in the RPI, Texas Tech was 19, Arizona was 12. So seeding could be impacted by this game for sure. And that'll be interesting to me, Vic. Does, for example, Texas Tech throw Nyjah Kennedy here? She has started both games in this tournament. went the distance or didn't go the distance. They brought in Chloe Riasetto for a third of an inning, got in some trouble against Baylor on Thursday. They had to re-enter Kennedy to close the door. Then yesterday in the semifinals, when they destroyed Arizona State 18-0, Kennedy only had to go 3 innings. So does she get the ball for a third straight day, or does Jerry Glasgow go to Chloe Riasetto to get her some reps? Arizona won against Iowa State yesterday. They have used Devin Netz in both games in the circle. She came in relief in the UCF game where they came from behind on the Thursday, and then started the game yesterday, went deep into the ball game. So I don't anticipate Netz necessarily starting this game. That would be 3 days in a row. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Miranda Stoddard, who started the UCF game but didn't go long in that UCF game, maybe get the start today. We'll find out. We may or may not get the starting lineups before we go off the air, Vic. But what would you do, Vic, if you're Jerry Glasgow and Caitlin Lowe today? Who would you start in the circle?
Well, I am going in that thinking. I start Stoddard and Riasetto and give them very short leashes, because we already know Kennedy and Nets both hit for themselves. So they're both going to be in the lineup. So what I would do, have them in the lineup as the DP, and then have your starting pitcher in the flex position. So that way, if you need to pull them, all you have to do is make that flip. You don't change the lineup. You just put Kennedy, the DP, to pitch for Texas Tech. You put Ness, the DP, to hit for Arizona, and you go forward from there. One other conference one other thing that you did brought up with the whole Coastal Carolina situation, they have quality wins. They beat South Carolina. They beat Georgia Tech twice. But those quad 4 losses.
9
quad 4 losses. Thank you, sir. That will be the most fascinating case if they don't win the Sun Belt. And I want to ask you this question, because it kind of leads into our guest, Jeff Brown, will be joining us in a few minutes. Which of the teams on the bubble are the most nervous going into this championship Saturday?
Probably some of the Big Ten teams. Indiana dropped to 43 this morning in the RPI, which surprised me a little bit. They dropped a couple spots. Washington moved up slightly to about 37 range there. They would be a little nervous. They have 3 top 50 wins only. Indiana has 6. I think they're in better shape. Purdue's on the bubble. I don't think Purdue has much of a case at 46 in the RPI. Northwestern, by the way, dropped all the way to 50. 50.
So here's my question. So, Eric, here's my question. Why are we saying that Indiana and Washington need to be careful, but all of a sudden, I don't want to feel like it sounds like we're giving Northwestern a easy pass to the tournament because they beat UCLA. But the fact that you had that UCLA series win, and then the very next time you took the field, you lost in a 5-12 matchup in the opening round of the Big Ten tournament. Yes, it was to the host team. Yes, it was a historic performance, but that's a game you have to win.
Well, I have as of this morning, I have them out. So, because I think Michigan took their spot. Michigan and we'll get to Jeff Brandt. We'll talk about Michigan here shortly. Michigan making this run reminds me a lot of Indiana last year, Vic. Remember, they made the run to the championship game and they got into the field. They probably were the last team in the field because they made that run to the Big Ten championship game as a runner-up. Michigan this morning is 42 in the RPI. They're ahead of Indiana by a spot. They're ahead of Purdue, and they're ahead of Northwestern. That's good news for Michigan. And they picked up wins over Oregon this week, which was big. Remember, they have a couple wins over South Florida and Carolina. I would still feel better if I'm Michigan just to still win the automatic bid and upset UCLA, because if you lose, now what happens if Liberty loses? Is that your spot? Is that Indiana's spot? It's probably going to be one of those teams that's going to lose that spot.
What happens if USF loses in the American?
Right. And that's why you need to take care of the automatic bid. Otherwise, you could be still on the outside looking in. And I think that's what makes this very fascinating on Championship Saturday. And from that standpoint, and the Big Ten has certainly been a big story, Victor, when it comes to this championship week and the chaos that has been going on in West Lafayette and Purdue.
Yep, and the man who has been in the midst of the chaos covering it for us on D1 Softball joins us now. the one and only Mr. Jeff Brown, repping the Goonies shirt. I love it, sir. Good morning. Happy Saturday to you.
Good morning, gentlemen. Looking forward to what's going to be a fun day.
Eric,
No doubt.
Eric was kind of talking about this earlier, Jeff, just the run from Michigan. What has impressed you the most? Okay, we talked about this last night with what Coach told us done with Michigan. What have you seen that has made this run for the Wolverines so impressive going into today's championship versus UCLA?
Well, I think their experience is paying off. They're the defending champs. They've been in the championship game 4 of the last 5 years. They've got 11 titles over their history. So, and Lauren Durkowski was the tournament MVP last year, and she started every game so far. Now, last year she threw every inning. Now it's more split with Aaron Hayne, who's come in, the sophomore, and the two of them working together are making them very competitive. Their defense is playing just outstanding, and they're getting timely hitting. And so they're doing everything they need to do. And, as Eric said, are just moving up and maybe jumping teams. But I will tell you that Shonda Stanton at IU, Rhonda Revelle at Nebraska, even Kelly Inouye Perez at UCLA are like, the Big Ten needs a little more respect for what they're doing. You saw Purdue at the 12th seed show just how deep the conference kind of is. And even though you lopped 5 teams off that didn't get to come here, they all were really talking about the depth and going for everybody. I'd hate to see Northwestern out with Lauren Boyd because, she can keep you competitive against anybody. IU is honestly terrific to be in. Everybody in their batting lineup is hitting over like 320. Bree Copeland is just an absolute two-way stud. Taylor Minnick can hit for days. That's a team that I think needs to be in as well. I mean, you want to see the best teams in here in the field. I hate that, one outing or something drops somebody out. We talked about Oregon last night, and, you can't ignore their body of work. They got to fly across 2/3 of the way across the country and come play here in one game. Just we're not sharp, but that doesn't mean that they're not still outstanding as well and could certainly end up in Oklahoma City at the College World Series.
I would tell the coaches to tell their conference people that maybe don't carry spring volleyball and maybe carry more softball, and maybe they'll get more respect from the. They got to start with their own conference. I think is where they need to look in there instead of pointing on the outside. But I want to ask you about UCLA. Because I think UCLA, this has been a very important week for them. People were kind of questioning them after losing the series to Northwestern and where are the Bruins at. What's been your vibe on being around UCLA? They got pushed by Indiana. It was a very good ball game. They beat Jordy Ball and Nebraska. I personally think they're a top 8 seed regardless, but nonetheless, what's been the vibe around the Bruins this week?
Well, saying they were pushed by Indiana doesn't give Indiana enough respect. That was a great game back and forth, I think. But you mentioned last night businesslike, and I think in talking to Coach Inouye Perez, she said the whole regular season is just preseason for us. This is when it really gets started for us, and so obviously losing 2 of 3 to Northwestern the last regular part of the season there was a little disappointing, but they've come right out and just kind of handled it. Jordan Woolry just crushes balls and has done it all weekend and just been amazing. Savannah Polo last night goes 3 for 3 against Jordy Ball and helps them, get out of that game as well. So their lineup is strong. They've got a pair of 20 home run hitters, which is only the second time in program history, and Woolry and Megan Grant. They've thrown 2 pitchers so far, and we haven't even seen Addison Fisher take the field, and she's actually had the most success against Michigan a couple of weeks ago in that 3-game series. So as to who starts tonight, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. They had 2 very competitive games in Ann Arbor a couple of weeks ago, and then had a 12-8 game with 7 home runs. So what's going to happen today? Who knows? I think we feel good that Lauren Durkowski is going to start. I think that's almost a guarantee for Michigan. Whether they go back to Taylor Tinsley, who had a good outing against Michigan, then had one where she didn't last out the first inning. Caitlin Terry kind of split innings there. She said last night after, the game, I talked to her, and she said, she's really been struggling a little bit, just spinning the ball, and really wanted to relax last night, trust her spins and let it work, and looked like herself again last night. So, do you bring her back out again? I would be kind of surprised because she went the distance last night. And I said, again, Fisher's not even in the field. So they've got arms to throw. They're loaded, and they're in the catbird seat right now. They know they're in the tournament. Like I said, another win over Michigan certainly helps their case for hosting. But, I think Michigan's in as well. Michigan, as long as they don't get destroyed today, I think Michigan's done enough to prove themselves.
What is Bonnie, when you talk to Bonnie Toll, what has changed for Michigan this week from a performance standpoint. This was a team I liked a lot in the preseason. I thought they would be in the mix to host for a regional, challenge for a Big Ten championship. The regular season, I know, didn't go the way they would have liked, but this seems like more of the Michigan I was expecting. I'm curious, what has Bonnie Toll said that has been different this week than than the regular season?
Well, I'll echo your thoughts there. At the beginning of the season, when D1 asked me to do some predictions and everything and what team would maybe be the surprise, I said Michigan, just because I knew Lauren Durkowski and I'm familiar with Erin Hain through her high school career, where she was absolutely dominant here in Indiana. Thought she would take that step forward and has. Indiana Langford and Conway, Lauren Poots comes in and has just been phenomenal. And so I thought Michigan would be a team that would be maybe a little bit better. Bonnie's talked about a little bit of heartbreak this year, just trying, and they just haven't consistently strung series together where they get that point where they climbed into the top part of the conference, sitting at 8th, coming in here, certainly a little bit lower than maybe what you would expect from them. But they look like themselves now. I think they're just very comfortable in their own skin. They are very relaxed. If you can get on X and check out any of the Big Ten videos there, you see just how relaxed and how much fun they are. And of course, you were seeing all these conferences where you're tagging your name on the bracket board and everything. They were going nuts because Coach Bonnie was still out up in the field somewhere. They were waiting and waiting. They're screaming throughout the stadium for her, and she comes running all the way down. I told her that was very dramatic. They made it look really good. So they're really got a lot of belief in each other, and I think they're comfortable with who they are. Their experience has really showed here in this tournament now, and now they've got to go day 4. Do they have enough left in the tank for one of the big dogs in the country?
And how much, Jeff, does the experience that Michigan has being in this situation just a year ago serve them under knowing that they're playing their fourth game in as many days against a UCLA team that, as I referenced last night, has been very efficient and business-like getting to the championship game?
Well, most of that crew is back, and you added Lauren Poots, who's been one of the best freshmen in the country, hit 400 most of the season there, got great Michigan lineage. Both mom and dad went to Michigan. She grew up in Arizona, but wanted to be at Michigan and grew up on campus at football games and softball games. So I actually got a story waiting to drop on D1 softball. I had a chance to talk to her a couple of weeks ago. Just a tremendous family, and talked to her mom as well. And, great family in there. So, yeah, their experience has been key. And I think, you saw that from day one, game one, a must-win game. You put your best lineup on the field. Northwestern didn't do that. They didn't put Lauren Boyd out there and say, this is a must-win game for us out the gate, and ended up bringing her in to hold things where they were the last 2 innings. But by then it was too late. They couldn't turn it around. So, she's put their best foot forward from day one, and we've seen that. I think the lineup, I don't think it's changed other than who was pitching in the circle. It's been that crew that's out there. They know who's coming off the bench to run. They know who's coming off the bench to pitch hit. Everything is clicking in the right direction. And Bonnie's such a joy to talk to. Eric, she's a big fan of yours. I was talking to her last night. She's like, yeah, I love Eric. So I told her you had mentioned they might be in with that win last night. So she was pretty excited. She hasn't put that pressure on them. And they told me that day one that we didn't tell the kids anything. We haven't really even talked about it. She goes, now I know they're astute enough, and I love the college word astute, that the college athlete, they're astute enough to know what their RPI was coming in here. They knew. And, I talked to Lauren Durkowski after that complete game opening night. I said, you're a senior. I mean, this was essentially an elimination game for the Wolverines, and you went out there and had a tremendous performance. And she's like, I'm just trying to be loose and enjoy it. I got 4 years with this group. I love it. They all love playing together. You can see that in the dugout. It's just a very solid group. And like you said, at this time of year, that's the team you want in a tournament because they're going to go put their best foot forward.
No doubt. And I'm a big fan I like Bonnie, so I'm happy to hear that. Like I said, there's a lot of great coaches and players in the league. Usually when I'm critical of the league, I'm critical of literally the league and how I think they should treat softball a lot better than, in my opinion, they do compared to other sports that they do over there in the Big Ten. Let me ask you about other teams that you've seen this week. Give me a team or two that you saw this week that you're like, hey, if this team is in your regional next week, you could be in some trouble because this team could make some noise. Who are those and that you like?
From the Big Ten or across the country?
Yes, yeah, Big Ten.
Well, I'm still a big fan of IU. They do a lot of things. Shonda Stanton really has that program in a good spot. They brought great athletes in. Bree Copeland and Taylor Minnick, 1-2 on that lineup. That's hitting 400 and 480, I think Minnick's hitting. It's crazy. And when she's on, and Shonda Stanton talked about this week, that they tried to limit her pitching a little bit more down the stretch so she'd be fresh. And she had just a terrific game, in game one right there against Washington. She was dominant, a 2-hit shutout. So they're a team that will be a tough out. And so trying to get by them, I think their athleticism is just crazy good. And that's what makes them good. It was really disappointing in Ohio State. I was looking forward to seeing them, and they laid an egg. And so, that's not the team that's been all year. And that one's dangerous too because of their power numbers. And I mentioned, last night, their starting 9 had 119 home runs in the lineup going into that game, and they hit 3 more. So 2 of them, unfortunately, were late after the outcome was decided, but they can overpower you with swings pretty quickly. So now their pitching's a little suspect, and they don't have a lot of depth there at that position. So, that hurts them a little bit. Didn't get to see enough of Washington and Oregon. They're one and done and flying back to the West Coast. So that's hard to tell. I still like Northwestern. I hope Northwestern gets in. Lauren Boyd is just a tremendous story. I've got another story at D1 that they're holding right now on her, who actually didn't want to do media this year. She said, sat out all last season, injury. Has just really focused on herself. So I talked to one of the pitchers. I talked to Grace Nito, who sat out all last year as well with an injury. So, and then talking to Coach Drohan, just talking about Lauren Boyd, the competitor, maybe the most competitive person they've ever met. And that includes when she's babysitting Coach Drohan's daughter. She ain't giving any Connect 4 wins or Clue wins. She wins at everything. And you saw that at UCLA, where she came out and just took them down twice. So I hope Northwestern gets in, because then you're going to see Lauren Boyd come out. And then you got to deal with a Northwestern team that's pretty solid.
What team you've seen this week that maybe you're going to be worried about next week?
Well, Ohio State just doesn't. I don't know if they've got enough pitching. Lauren Butte's terrific. The freshman, 19 wins, but she struggled with control in their game here with Purdue, and the bullpen couldn't help her a whole lot after that. Now, the defense just played terrible. They had just an awful game of 5 errors in the game where they were just throwing the ball around the field. Purdue was small balling them all over the place. So I don't know if they've got enough arms to compete, but man, if you can go score 8-9 runs a game by hitting 3-4 bombs, you don't need to be great. You just need to be efficient out there. And so that's a team, that power game. Coach Kumar has, the legendary track of what she did at Miami of Ohio, bringing the power game. And now that one's scary. I mean, you've got, I think, 4 or 5 players now lined up with 17 to 19, 25 home runs. And so, and Jazzy Burns hit another one here. So they're outstanding. Like I said, it's so tough to see them one game. And, I love the single elimination format, because I think it makes you put your best foot forward. And, if you have a bad game, you've had a bad game. And so hopefully, they don't get punished for one really bad game that they had against a Purdue team that had a lot of momentum and a home crowd behind them that made them outstanding. You mentioned Purdue being on the bubble. There's no way they get in. They're not ready for that yet. But I love the direction that they're going. Coach Frazzati is an energetic human being.
Yeah.
Great person. She's got great ties to Michigan and Amanda Chittister, Argentina team. She's terrific. I'd love to see them get a couple power bats in their lineup. I mean, I think their leading home run hitter coming into the game was Julia Gossett, who had like 7. And hey, she's got 11 now. She hit 4 here in the tournament in 3 days. She's outstanding. Great number 1 pitcher, batting cleanup in their lineup, plays first base. She's someone they can build around. They've got great speed. And we didn't mention last night with Purdue, 2 of their starting outfielders didn't play this weekend because they got injured against Indiana Mariah Poehler still in a neck brace. She was here all weekend watching, and their other outfielder, Ramos, was on crutches. That was a nasty collision they had against IU. So they played down 2 starters as well and still did all that. So I think the energy's in the right place. 30 wins this year. That's a milestone for them that they reached in more than half a decade. They get to the Final Four. They get to show off, what West Lafayette and Purdue and Victor Stadium, which is just gorgeous, got to show off. So I think they're in a great spot. Some power in their lineup would be a big help for them, make that next step. But I hope, like you said, and obviously you've got bid stealers, but the Northwesterns and the Washingtons and the Oregons, all, you got to reward the season and not just one bad outing. And in Washington and Oregon's case, a long flight across the country to come play one game. And maybe that's why you give UCLA more respect, because they did the same thing and have come here and gone 2-0.
Last question before we let you go real quick. 2 thoughts. Purdue, fantastic job hosting. Would you give them thumbs up on their hosting? And B, in the second part, give me one quick key that you think decides the championship game.
Well, in Purdue's case, they've had great weather. The field looks phenomenal. They've got a terrific stadium that's got size to it, so it can spread out and comfortable, but it's intimate. Last night, I mean, it was packed around the bowl and everything. And then the outfield, they've got a berm in right field underneath the scoreboard. Had a big crowd out there as well. So Purdue was terrific. Maybe that surprised some of these teams. I don't know, being first year, the West Coast teams being out here, but getting a chance to be at West Lafayette, their campus area, they've got softball, baseball, tennis, and soccer all located in the quad out here. All of them are just beautiful facilities. So certainly an unknown across the country, maybe seeing all that, like you said, maybe getting the Big Ten a little more showcase. Purdue's done a great job of that. Michigan mentioned last night, got to score early. They can't chase UCLA. I think the pressure starts mounting. Coach Bonnie last night said, though, there's no pressure on us. I think they feel like they've gotten in. I think they feel like they've done enough. That win over Oregon, they don't have to have that pressure that this is a must-win game. As you mentioned, they win, they're in. That takes care of all of that. I think they're still, you mentioned they've climbed and jumped over IU and Washington in RPI. So I think they're there. I think, like I said, as long as you don't go out and get run ruled, in a game here early and just embarrass yourselves, and they're not going to do that. They're too solid. Have a good performance today, and I think they'll enjoy tomorrow what happens. And that's a team that's going to be dangerous to deal with on the road.
That is Jeff Brown, our very own D1 Softball. Make sure you check out his work throughout on D1Softball.com. He's been recapping every game and talking to all the coaches. It's been players. Jeff, you've done a fantastic job all week there in West Lafayette, and I appreciate you coming on the show. Tell the people where they can find you on social media.
I'm at Sports Boss for Life on Twitter there. That's the best place to find me. I'm busy. Been a journalist for 25 years, so love doing this. Had a great chance to meet and talk with these coaches and these players that I've been following for years as well. Anyway, so it's been a great honor, and I appreciate getting to talk to you guys.
All right, Jeff, thanks for joining us. We'll be in touch. Thanks for joining. Enjoy the game.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy the day.
That's Jeff Brown from West Lafayette joining us. He'll be covering the Big Ten championship game later today. That was awesome. Really good addition to us. He's been awesome this week and all year writing for us. And we might get him on the regular pod, Vic, here in a short period of time as well during this postseason. You talked about the great hosting of Purdue. There's been some questions about how the host in the ACC has been doing. Been very interesting. Mother Nature's been playing a factor in the ACC championship game. It'll be Florida State and Clemson, in case you have not heard. Vic, quick on the breaking news that took place this morning on the FSU Club before we bring our next guest.
Yeah. News that broke 5 minutes before we went on live. First pitch for the ACC championship has been moved back 30 minutes to a 3 o'clock start instead of the scheduled 2:30 due to weather in the area. I wish they had probably thought of that yesterday, but we're going to get into that a little bit more with our own colleague from D1 Softball, for the host of the D1 Softball podcast, who was there up close and in person, Jenna Becerra. Jenna, good morning. Have you significantly dried off from yesterday's antics?
I have. I also, to be fair, was in the press box, so I was fine. I was warm. I was dry. Not quite the same as the athletes and the coaches who are on the field, so I'm doing fine. Very
good. You probably saw more rain yesterday than you have probably most of the last month or two probably there. But let's get – I want to address that first because that was the big talking point. A lot went viral on yesterday with – the rain and the weather between Clemson and Virginia Tech and whether the game should have been stopped, should not have been stopped. And, certainly there was a lot of conversation. We knew the forecast did not look good and they probably punched through. It got a little crazy there. You were there in person, number one. Number two, you have played. So you understand as an athlete, a softball player, what it's like to deal with those type of elements. So in your opinion, what did you see there and what should have been done?
Yeah, it was interesting. So it was cold as well. Not that that's enough to stop a game, but just adding in that element to it. I think the game started it was said 51 degrees and it said feels like 42. And then it dropped to the low 40s and then said feels like 37. So with that, including a little bit of a breeze and then, of course, the rain, a lot going on for the athletes for sure. It's very hard. It's hard, especially to pitch. It's hard to throw a ball in from the outfield. It's hard to pitch in the rain. But I think just so everybody understands too, the forecast only got worse throughout the rest of the day. It was pouring last night. And then this morning, it's still set to rain, which is why they pushed the game out till 3 too. So I think the thought process was to get the game in. Because have I seen games be called or at least delayed with less? Yes. But at the same time, it's tough too, because you think about the argument that, well, then Clemson's pitchers came in, like Brooke McCubbin came in and she was able to throw strikes. So there is sort of, I think, two things can be true at the same time. Was it ideal? No, it wasn't. It was very hard. And I think the announcer spoke to that because the section of the press box that they were in, Jenny Dalton Hill and Pam Ward, was open air. So for them, they could feel that coldness, that weather a little bit, some of the water maybe coming in. So they actually had a little bit more of the experience that was closer to what the athletes and the coaches were experiencing on the field too. But it was tough. It was tough. There's no other way to say it. And yes, I've seen games called sooner for less. But at the same time, do we try to get the game in or not? And then you have a lot of different factors to manage. I do want to give a shout out to the fields crew too, because they were working really hard in between games, of course, prepping the fields, but then even in between innings, bringing out additional dirt, trying to make sure that things were playable. That's the other piece of it, is there wasn't lightning, no lightning. And that's usually what will halt a game as well. And because the fields crew was working hard too, the field itself was playable. There weren't giant puddles anywhere or things like that. So it was an interesting one for sure.
Did either team talk with the media after the game, or is the weather so bad that nobody talked to anybody?
They did a little bit. So head coach John Rittman of Clemson did go sit with Alex Powers and Brittany McKinney of ACC Network afterwards. And I think he pointed that out, from my understanding too, that yes, it was difficult. The Virginia Tech pitchers, you could tell, 13 walks at the end of that game and 8 runs in an inning, primarily from walks. You can see that it was clearly a factor, clearly an element, but he did say, but then our pitchers did throw some strikes. Brooke McCubbin did come out there, and I chatted with her after the game about it. And I think they're just running on adrenaline right now. She didn't even have a sleeve on. And she was telling me, she was like, yeah, I thought about putting like a little undersleeve on, but then I was like, I don't know, it's too late now. And so she was just out there in the cold, like it was any other day. But so they did do some. It was a little bit more limited because at the same time, the teams are trying to get on the bus and get out of the rain and out of the cold. So just a little bit.
My suggestion to the ACC, there's, you got 2 West Coast teams now. You can verify this, Jenna. The Stanford obviously has got the new renovations for the stadium next year. I'm just saying, California this time of year is nice that, maybe you don't have to worry about rain and weather. Just maybe move it over there. Or look, listen, by the way, not to rub it in, but not a cloud to be found here in the background in Oklahoma City here, Jenna. Just saying.
We do get some sort of weather every year at the World Series in Oklahoma City. So that's the other thing too, though, is that you choose an outdoor sport. So the elements are a part of it. And it's as much, if not more, mental than even physical when those things come up.
Very fair. All right, let's get to your early thoughts. Hopefully they get this championship game in. I guess that may be a 2-part question. How confident are you that they will get this championship game in, number one? And number 2, once they do, what's your thoughts on this matchup? 2 teams that you've seen now a lot.
Yeah, I think they will get the game in. And that's part of where that 30-minute push came in. The forecast, at least that I've seen so far today, is that it was essentially rain all the way up into the original game time at 2:30. But then starting around 3, it's supposed to lighten up. So with that being said, I think we'll get the champ game in, which is great. And then with these 2 teams in particular, Florida State is just, I think even though they've been in the top 5 in our rankings for D1 softball for a good chunk of the season now, I still think they're almost a little bit underrated on the national scale. They're good, and it's all 3 parts of the game that they do really well. The pitch by committee situation is great. They're obviously also led by Jazzy Francic in the circle, who's been fantastic as a freshman. I think did not get the conference freshman of the year or pitcher of the year awards, but certainly deserved to be in that conversation. She's been outstanding. And then when you consider just the 1 through 9 threat that they have offensively at any given time, it's it's relentless. That's how it felt last week when I was in Blacksburg for their series with Virginia Tech. And it's felt that way here, where even if they're getting that 3-2 win yesterday, for example, in the semifinals, you just can't count them out just because it's a score looks a certain way on the board. It's just, that Florida State, oh, well, they have another chance. So that means they're not done yet. And then defensively, that they're pretty solid. There was a tough play at the end there yesterday where Issa Torres had made some great plays throughout, as she does throughout her entire career, but had made some great plays specifically yesterday, and it goes right through their wickets, right? So then they're back in it, Duke is, and they fought to the very end. But for the most part, pretty clean defense that they have as well. And then I think Michaela Edenfield is a very steady presence behind the plate. She actually brought the team up together yesterday to have a conversation and say, okay, can we all just take a breath? We just need to play catch, so she's that leader, that reset that they need when they need it. So I think they're just dangerous, across the board. And then Clemson, on the other hand, there's a little bit something different about them right now. I mean, in terms of energy, they have this why not us mentality. And while they've given up a lot of runs, obviously, so far in the tournament, given up 9 yesterday to Virginia Tech, they also don't quit. It's just a little different feeling. And I asked Brooke McCubbin about that, and she said that, this is the first time they've been to the championship game in her time in Clemson since her freshman year. So I think there's this element, too, of like they started off tough. It was a tough start to the season for them, especially in Clearwater, going 1-4. But then building up since then, that battle testing early on is helping them peak at the right time now. So I think that this why not us mentality might just be the mentality that you need to beat a top 5 team like a Florida State. So I think both are going to come out guns blazing today.
Jenna, you referenced Michaela Edenfield's impact on this team. Wasn't available for most of their postseason run last year due to an injury. How important has she been to be a calming influence and a steady leadership, not just with her presence defensively behind the plate, but had a big home run yesterday in that victory to guide Florida State to today's championship game?
Oh, yeah. She had the walk-off in the quarterfinals victory as well to get the run rule, right? And then, of course, that home run that turned out to be the winning run at the end of it. Turned out that they needed that run, that third run, to get the 3-2 victory. She is. I mean, and you talk to her off the field as well, and she just has a great perspective, whether that's her impact individually on young girls. There's a line, seems like it wraps around any building that she's at after games to give autographs to young girls and young players. But she understands what the big picture is. And I think she brings that perspective to the field as well. Just like in that tough moment, right? When they're starting to potentially give this game away to Duke yesterday in the semifinals, but then she's that person to not only calm everybody, but read the moment, right? Read the situation and know, okay, this is a moment that I need to step in. And some of those things, those are intangibles, right? Like those aren't things that you can always coach. You can get better at them, but some of that's just inherent. And I think, not to look too far ahead, but exciting for a lot of reasons to see her translate that into her pro career with the Volts in the AUSL.
The coaching matchup, John Rittman against Lonnie Alameda, they go way back then. I feel like this year has been a this is your life John Rittman year for him. He went back to Stanford before the year started, during the year when obviously they went to play Stanford. You covered that series. You called that series there. Now he faces Lonnie, who he's known. Obviously, I think Lonnie was on the staff with him in Stanford at one point. Just talk about those two people. You know those two as well as anybody. What's it like for those two here playing in the championship game against each other? I know they've played each other a bunch of times, so they're accustomed to it, but it's unique every time when they face each other, especially with everything that's gone on with the news with Lonnie and her health with the cancer diagnosis. Yeah,
I think that piece of it, Coacha, as everyone affectionately calls her, who knows her, she is one of those people that prior to this season, everybody would describe her as somebody who has a lasting and long impact and a widespread impact. That's just the way that she coaches. Every player that I have ever talked to, whether they're current or alums of the Florida State program, says the same thing. Like she just allows you to be yourself. And she also isn't afraid to have the conversations about real things and some of the hard things. That's something that someone like Michaela Edenfield talks about and someone like Jesse Warren talks about as an alum. And funny enough, they're going to be teammates in the AUSL, which is exciting. But I think that personality translated to a lot of these Stanford alums. So I didn't play at the time when she was on staff with Coach Rittman at Stanford. That was before my time. But even I have heard all the stories from our older alums about how wonderful she is. And so when you have the connection like that, to know that that was a staff that had such a lasting impact and really helped build up the Stanford program to what it is today. You know, Jessica Allister isn't where she's at without Coach Rittman or Lonnie Alameda, for example. So I think to have those deep ties, it's always interesting because on the one hand, there's that personal relationship that exists off the field and it's very special. And on the other hand, you're almost slightly more competitive between the lines because you know them so well. And that familiarity is something in conference play that is so interesting anyway, right? Like you have the familiarity from either this season, last season, whatever it is, just the rivalries that exist. It makes it to where you can't truly predict anything. You can see what's on paper, but you never know what's going to happen. So I think these are the special moments, right? And these are the cool things in the ACC.
No doubt. It's going to be tremendous. Let's talk about the rest of the teams in the ACC real quick. Florida State, Clemson, locks to host the regionals. I think FSU is a lock to host a super regional. I think they should be a top 4 national seed. We'll see if that happens or not. But let's talk about some of the other teams. The ACC is on pace here to have a record year as far as NCAA tournament teams in the field. I have them for 9 teams. I think North Carolina is the one team that's on the bubble that's got to sweat this out in the next 24 to 48 hours. I think everybody else is a lock to be in the field. Give me a team or two from that you've seen this week in the ACC that you're like, hey, if this team is in your bracket, you're going to have some problems, and because this team might make some noise.
Yeah, I mean, there's the core 4 as we know it, right, with Florida State, Clemson, Duke, and Virginia Tech. But then the new additions of a Stanford and a Cal who were also in the postseason. I think Virginia is definitely one that I have to bring up with head coach Joe Harden. What she's done, I thought it was interesting because when I interviewed her recently on the Believe in Softball podcast, she talked about the concept of bamboo and how it relates and really exemplifies what her team and her program is at, where, you know, it takes years and years, 5 to 6 years to work on a bamboo plant before you see any results at all. But then when you do, it shoots up really quickly. And so this is kind of last season and this season have started to look like their bamboo years in some ways. And I think, you know, them being in the rankings too, for the first time in a long time, it was the first time they had a win in the ACC tournament in almost 15 years after making it into the quarterfinals after the opening round. So I think they're a team to look out for. Eden Bigham, of course, Jade Hilton, Macy Eaton, and they've been breaking offensive records for the program all season long. They're one that, you know, they're not going to be fun. They're not going to be fun to go up against in the postseason. And then if North Carolina does make it, I've been impressed with what I saw. So obviously, Kenna Ray Dark, you know, they got to her a little bit at the end yesterday. However, she went almost 13 innings without giving up an earned run, going back to their first game here at the tournament. She, I think, is locked in. And she talks about, when I had a chance to speak with her after the game on day 1, just how much they want it as a team and how it's a little bit different. They had talent last year, she said, but not only do they have talent this year, they're just all in. They're locked in. Sanaa Thompson too. Can we talk about her and just her diving catches in center field, and then also some timely hits too? So I just think they could be an interesting one as well. I think they've been a little bit overlooked when you talk about Kat as well, being the RBI leader in the country. You know, they can be dangerous.
Now, one hot topic when we all get together on Sunday night for the live reaction show that you'll be hosting which is a good thing because you're a better host than the two of us combined. I think Vic would
Oh,
would
you
sign
mean
off on
this
you.
show right here, Eric?
That show right there. There it is, folks. Cheap plug. Jenna Becerra will be hosting of the Cast of Thousands. Will be on live during the reaction show. Get our immediate reaction on that. We'll have some guests as well on the show, 7 o'clock there on D1 Softball there, selection show special, Jenna. My hot topic, one of the hot topics is going to be hosting Virginia Tech and Oregon, possibly for one spot. I think the two teams here, which I'll ask you about in a little bit, Texas Tech and Arizona are locks to host. I think Alabama's probably going to host. I think the question's going to be Oregon or Virginia Tech. You've seen the Hokies for the last week here. Your thoughts on Virginia Tech, what you've seen, and your thoughts about their chances of hosting, because that result yesterday could be a difference maker. Who knows? We don't know. I still think they're going to host, but you never know. So what's your thoughts on Virginia Tech?
I still think that they likely should host. Now, should and will are two different things, right? But I think, when you talk about Emma Lemley, right, in the circle and how she has led this team, she also leads not only in terms of, starting the game off, setting the tone, but she's now set the program record with 12 saves also. And that 12th save was against that Florida State team, a top 5 win to end and avoid the sweep in their series last weekend in Blacksburg. But I think her presence in the circle is huge, and just with the rest of the staff as well. And then Corey McMillan, I mean, geez, like 30 home runs in a year. I think, Brie Ellis is obviously a hot topic and the front runner, as many know, for Player of the Year nationally. But Corey McMillan is certainly part of the conversation, in my opinion, the ACC Player of the Year as well. As that leadoff just sets the tone really well, and you just can't really escape anyone in their lineup either. Sometimes people forget about Bree Peck, right? She didn't get a golden ticket the way that Emma Lemley and Corey McMillan did, but she has the career RBI record home run record for Virginia Tech.
And RBI record too.
Well, yeah. But in my brain, I was thinking career, because her and Corey in particular will joke about it. They're like, "Hey, are you coming for Bree's home run record?" And she's like, "I told Bree she can have the career one. I just want the single season one." So, they're good. They're good to go there. But I think they're a good team. They're a good team. There was that hiccup, I would say, would be losing the series to Pitt. That is probably the tough one. But I think to take a game from Florida State was something to build on. And I just think and I put this in some of my write-ups, my post-game recaps and things during that Blacksburg series with them in Florida State. If they don't host, you don't want them in your regional. I feel bad for whoever has them as a 2 seed in their regional if they don't end up hosting.
I agree. They've played a very difficult schedule, too. They've won on the road as well. Oregon, I checked this morning, has played 31 games against Quad 4 as of this morning. For those that do not know what that means, those are teams that are 101 or worse in the RPI. That is a youch. And their schedule's non-conference schedule, like 150 something. That's kind of something the committee tends to frown upon. We'll talk more about that on the live show on Sunday night there. I would be remiss if I did not ask you about this Big 12 championship game, because in a lot of ways, some of the parties involved in this game. Let's start with Arizona, who has fallen behind in both of these games, but has gotten to the championship in year 1 of the Big 12 era for Arizona. Caitlin Loan Company, Sydney Stewart, the former Washington Husky, with a big 3-run homer in yesterday's game to beat Iowa State and get to the championship game. And they will be taking on Texas Tech and potentially Nyjah Kennedy, who you know as well as anybody. I've made people have asked me here, and I'm like, Jenna is to Nyjah to what Brian Windhorst is to LeBron James, except Nyjah likes you. She will not call you weird. I promise you. She likes you. Me and her and I've talked this week. But give me your thoughts, because Nyjah will face Arizona. They have faced each other from their Pac-12 days. So I'm curious your thoughts on this matchup in this stage in Oklahoma City for both sides.
Well, it's interesting, right, when you face a team in the regular season. So obviously Texas Tech came out on top in that series against Arizona. But the familiarity does always add something spicy, not just from this year, but like you said, historically, Arizona having went up against Nyjah when she was at Stanford in the previous Pac-12 days. So it's it's one of those things where I think, you get more experience off of a pitcher, you see more pitches, you're in a better position as a hitter. But at the same time, pitchers can gather information on hitters too, once they've faced them a decent amount of times as well. So the tournament atmosphere always makes a difference as well, in my opinion. So think about it. For example, last year, Nigel's previous team, Stanford, they were swept by UCLA in the regular season. They go on to beat them at the Women's College World Series. It's just a different time. And are people peaking at the right time? I think Texas Tech is in a great position right now. Their first ever Big 12 regular season championship. They're riding high on that, setting records, and they're scoring too this week. There's a lot for them to build off of because they do have hitters in their lineup. It's not just the Nyjah show. But Arizona, I'm not surprised at all to see them right there in the mix at the top of the Big 12 this year. It's something that I anticipated, especially after what they fought through last year. People didn't realize how many injuries they had and that 3 of their pitchers went down right before the season started last year. And they still fought their way into the postseason last year. So then to have multiple arms, I think it's 8 in total that they have at least had throwing bullpens and things this year has made a big difference. Also, Devin Netz is just going to Devin Netz, right? So, I mean, the Big 12 Player of the Year, understandably so, as she should be. It's actually exactly what you want to see in a championship game for a conference tournament. This is what you hope for, right? The two at the top who have already faced each other this year, but here's another chance, and who's going to show up this particular day because that's something that actually Chelsea Spencer says this all the time, Cal's head coach. It's not necessarily the best team who wins. It's the team who plays the best on that day. Right. So I think that's always interesting, but I don't think it gets much better than Nyjah going up against Arizona.
In a stadium she has pitched before many a time.
She's used to that. She's used to that environment too, right? But so is Arizona, as a program that culturally speaking, Caitlin Lowe, the postseason that's what they do, So it's been a while since they've been to the Women's College World Series on that field, whereas Nyjah, it's been very recent and not once but twice.
Well, and I talked to Haley Toney, the freshman shortstop for Texas Tech, who smiles when Nyjah's name comes up. But she's talked about how Nyjah has kind of showed him the ropes and, hey, this is what it's like here in the stadium. She's a leader that you know this because you obviously know her, covered her very closely. But a lot of people don't realize that she has that, and I've seen it this week. She has that it factor with her teammates that just kind of like surrounds her, that they just like absorb whatever she tells them to do. It's been fascinating to see that with her there, leading this group here, trying to make some history for a program that it won its first ever Big 12 regular season title, looking for their first Big 12 tournament title. Meanwhile, Arizona trying to win, obviously, their first Big 12 title in their 1 year. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun there. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe you'll see her next week. Who knows? We'll talk about that Sunday night. Sunday night.
We'll save that for tomorrow, but yeah.
All right, let me let you go on this. AC, give me a couple of keys in this championship game today that you're looking for Florida State and Clemson that you think can make the difference and who comes out on top.
I think setting the tone is important. Florida State can come back at any time, but Clemson has been racking up the runs later on in the game so far. I think if they can try to set the tone a little bit earlier, they'll put themselves in a better position because they know how to go punch for punch, blow for blow. Like they can do that with teams, but Florida State knows how to throw devastating blows at the same time. So if they can set the tone early, I think that's going to be important for them to win some of those early innings. For Florida State, I think they just need to keep doing what they're doing. Not let the game at the moment get too big, which they're great at. They've been in this position before as a program. And you mentioned it earlier. I think with what's going on with head coach Lonnie Alameda, she's still incredibly competitive between the lines. She's all in, she's fully invested in it. But what's going on off the field with her battle with breast cancer too, you actually see that throughout the ACC. I want to give a shout out to all the ACC schools, ACC fans as well, because I'm seeing, and I actually have it here, the shirts with the Lonnie Alameda, the pink ribbon with her braid intertwined with it everywhere. And even in Blacksburg last weekend, you had Virginia Tech fans yelling, "We love you, Lonnie," when she's on the field. And I think all that does is add to Florida State's already sort of high energy approach this year. They're just playing for something bigger, right? And when you're playing for something bigger, you're even more dangerous, really. So I think Florida State's just got to stay the path. Clemson's got to try to strike early, and it could be interesting.
That's Jenna Becerra. She's at the ACC Championship. We've been covering there all week. She'll be covering the championship game. Have you had a chance to check out Boston at all?
A little bit, not a ton, because I'm at the field all day, really. But I did get to go to Cheers, like where they filmed it in the bar that they have there too yesterday, which was cool. It was pretty cool. And then I got Mike's Pastry, which is a big thing around here. They have tons of stuff. I got a cannoli. That's what they're famous for, and it was absolutely delicious. So I have gotten to do a little bit like that. I'm hoping to get around like Harvard's campus and stuff too. We'll see.
What about Fenway Park? Little tour, Fenway?
I'm gonna try. It's tough. So they played Tuesday night, and that was kind of like my only shot at potentially going to an actual game because they're away this weekend. But I may still be able to get a tour in. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
All right. Well, you're going to be hosting the selection show Sunday night from that same locale. Just tell the audience, what they can expect from you here today in the championship game coverage and all the social stuff you've been doing, as well as Selection Sunday night.
Yeah, I'd say keep a close eye on social media channels. So my Twitter handle is right here too, but it's Jenna Becerra01, and then Instagram's just Jenna Becerra. But for D1 softball social channels as well, a lot of the content that's being captured, post-game interviews, seeing some of the sticker slaps, which are some of the best moments in these tournament atmospheres when the teams win and can move along in the bracket. That's at D1 softball, and that's across Instagram, Twitter, as well as Facebook too. So just keep a close eye there because lots to come.
All right, stay dry. Have fun over there, and thanks for joining us. And can't wait to talk to you tomorrow when I'm back in the back home. Hopefully, travels go well, and we'll banter more on Selection Sunday night. But enjoy the game today.
Thank you. Yes, we'll talk soon. We'll see what happens today. Take care.
All right, that is Jenna Becerra. She'll be covering obviously the ACC championship game. She's been there all week long. There. There's been weather has potentially impacted the SEC, Victor, and as a result, they're going to start a little earlier than planned, aren't they?
Yes, the SEC championship is now starting at 1 p.m. between Oklahoma and Texas A&M, and that game is going to be on the SEC network instead of just playing on being on ESPN. Now, let's see, we had Big Ten, we had you at the Big 12, we had the ACC. There's only somebody who played a little bit of softball in the SEC that knows a thing or two. Oh, yeah, we know someone. Joining us from Athens, there she is, our champion from Athletes Unlimited, Mandy Softball herself. Amanda Lorenz, her and Justin McLeod leading the coverage of the SEC tournament. Amanda, good Saturday morning to you. How are you? Your microphone.
Got a little bit. Got a little technical glitch here. You can't hear it right now.
Can you hear me now?
Now we hear you. There you go.
There we go.
The key is unmuting. Yeah, guys, I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk some softball.
What's been your impression?
Go ahead, Eric.
Let me ask you. I just want to say, what's been your impression this week, covering it from a media standpoint, the SEC tournament, a tournament you have played in and excelled in? What's it been like covering it?
It's a lot more fun playing. It's a lot more fun to like be down on the field and be there and playing the game, but it's definitely fun to watch some good softball too.
Well, you got to see some softball yesterday. Two entirely different games. Let's talk first about Oklahoma and Arkansas. The Razorbacks jumped on the Sooners early. The Sooners were able to find the Sooner, and I think you've seen this before. Oklahoma never panics when they're in these situations. And Garcia with the home run, their conference tournament record, 6 home run of the game to walk off Arkansas. Just your thoughts on as that game developed. Did it kind of feel like inevitable that the Sooners were going to pull out that victory over Arkansas?
Yeah, first of all, I think the first couple innings, it really felt like Arkansas was in control. And then all of a sudden you just felt the shift. I feel like everybody in the stands felt that all the momentum was in the Oklahoma dugout, and that they were going to win. Like you just felt something big was going to happen. So it's almost like you hear a walk-off 3-run home run and you say like, how exciting, how shocking. And I was not shocked. Like it just felt like they were about to do something big. And Gabby Garcia has been someone that I've loved watching all season long. I think that she's been like a quiet MVP for them. The way that she's played such an elite shortstop as a freshman has been really fun to watch. She's been so steady over there. And then also her ability to hit so many different pitches for power with authority, obviously putting that to show yesterday on the big stage. But yeah, it was really, really fun to watch and really big for that team. You know, obviously, we hold Oklahoma to a different standard. So seeing them even drop a series, I feel like we all are like, like what's going on? When really it's just a completely different roster, and they're figuring things out and they're trying to create their own identity and figure out who they are. So it's been really fun to watch them be a different Oklahoma than we're used to, but still having the same results. They're still conference champions, looking to win a conference tournament championship today. And playing at such an elite level.
Of course, they'll be taking on Texas A&M, who just has been dominant this tournament, run rolling, beating the crap out of South Carolina, beating up on their rivals in Texas. Wow, what's your thoughts on Tricia Ford's Aggies team, who right now is rolling?
I think you're in a good spot when it's really hard to even just talk about one player, right? Like one player's name doesn't even come to mind with just how dominant they've been and how much fun. If you like offense, which I like offense, you like watching the Texas A&M Aggies right now because while they've been fun to watch, it almost looks like they know exactly what pitch is coming. But you also have to hit it, right? So it's both. They look extremely prepared, but so strong and ready for every pitch that comes their way. It's been really infectious to watch, obviously, throughout their whole lineup. It looks a lot of fun to be a hitter on that team right now, and doing that against such a great Texas team. I mean, it didn't like there was no time during the game that you thought Texas was going to win that game. A&M has been so dominant, so fun to watch, and obviously, I mean, Coach Ford has done that everywhere she's gone. She's had a very similar brand of softball of these athletes that are really tough and they like to get after it. They like to make their presence known, and it's authentic. So it was definitely really fun to watch.
No doubt. And Emily Kennedy's pitching well, too. Lights out. They look like a national championship team contender. Am I accurate in that?
I think you're absolutely accurate. I think when Emily Kennedy is able to get that kind of run support and then just take a deep breath and do her thing, that's really special. So yeah, I feel like the offense is really taken away from how great Emily Kennedy has been, and I don't think she has a problem with that. I think that if her team can keep putting up the runs that they've been doing, I think she's just fine with taking a back seat.
No doubt there about that. Let's talk about some of the other teams and players you've seen this week. You've talked to a lot of players. For those that social media, you're doing an awesome job there. I can tell too that players are excited to talk to you. Like over here, they're like, "All right, fine, they'll talk to me, whatever." But with you, they're like, "Ooh, hey, now, I'll talk to you all the time." Let me ask you about Arkansas and Bree Ellis and the year she's having. She's the front runner for National Player of the Year. What was your thoughts seeing her live? She hit that walk-off grand slam earlier this week against Georgia, and just the Razorbacks as a whole.
I think the one thing that stands out is just like the pure joy that you see on her face. Like it really looks like she's having so much fun playing softball and really loves her teammates, which is really fun to watch someone like truly be themselves. Like I find myself like audibly laughing out loud at like certain things that she does throughout the game. Like I just think she's really funny and it's fun to watch. Like when she just like crawls back to first base after making an incredible catch or sliding into home and looking like she's folded in half. So just like the character to go along with her hitting like 300-foot home runs is fun to watch as a softball fan, but also to see, like, I remember when she was freshman of the year at Auburn and just, she seems like a completely different person. And obviously everybody is, right, from freshman year to senior year, but her growth. And obviously I think that's what Courtney Deifel does at Arkansas. She creates this amazing environment where all of them just really love her and love playing softball, love each other. They seem like a really one cohesive unit. So it's been really fun, especially in her last year, to see her just absolutely be thriving.
As a hitter, Amanda, what makes Bree Ellis such an impressive person to watch at the plate? For her, she only got one pitch to swing at against Georgia, and she maximized it with that walk-off grand slam. What makes her such impressive being a dynamic hitter yourself?
Yeah, she's so strong. I think her ability to hit at such a high average with so much power is so impressive because usually when your home run numbers trend up, your average goes down. It's just the way that it is when you're trying to hit the ball out. Usually that comes with some more fly ball outs. And that really has not been the case with Brie Ellis. She's so incredibly strong. She's so on time. Like it really looks like she has a specific plan, and she doesn't get derailed off of that. She talked about in the presser how she just tells herself to be loose and be calm and trust herself. And I just like with the way that she's swinging it, I'm like, I just don't believe it. Like you have to be telling yourself to hit it as far as possible because it looks like it every single time that she's just trying to absolutely hit a home run every time. But obviously if it's that consistent, I believe her. But it's been really fun to watch the way that this season has been absolutely incredible. And I agree with you. I think she's absolutely the front runner for player of the year, national player of the year.
Who's been a player or a team that you've seen this week in person that you're like, hey, whoa, I thought they were good, but seeing them live, they're better than even I thought. And maybe there should be more talk about either that individual or that team.
I'm going to go to here. I think that Salyn Hawkins from Alabama had a really great defensive week that I feel like if you have a solid shortstop like that can take away that many hits, like you have a really great opportunity to win a lot of games, especially when the lights are brighter and the ball is being hit harder. So for you to stop any momentum possible, that's huge. And I think that she obviously did a great job of that this week and is going to be huge for Alabama in the postseason. And then for Ole Miss, I think Brianna Lopez, the way that she was able to mix speeds and keep her team in ball games, like she truly is if she goes, like they will go. So she's their arm, and if she can continue to keep offenses off balance, they have a real opportunity to win some games.
Texas and Florida, two teams that currently get scrutinized a lot, two successful teams, two teams that are certainly World Series contenders, national title contenders, but people are always interested in talking about them. Florida lost earlier in the week to Ole Miss. Texas did not look good against A&M, held on against Ole Miss. I think both are still top 8 national seeds, but do you have any concerns about either team going into the NCAA tournament?
No, I think that at times it seems like we don't know which one we're going to get. If we're going to get the Florida team that took 2 of 3 from Oklahoma at home, or if we're going to get the Texas team that got swept by Oklahoma, or if we're going to get the team that goes into Gainesville and takes 2 of 3 from Florida. So I think that they both are so talented that's just the question mark is if they're going to perform like it. But I wouldn't say that that's like a concern. I think that they definitely have the talent and they're both extremely well coached. It's a good opportunity to get some rest and take a deep breath and really remind themselves who they are and what they're able to do in the postseason, because also the best part about the postseason is nothing matters. All that matters is now. So it doesn't matter that they lost this week. All that matters is Selection Show Sunday and seeing who's in their regional and figuring out how to a way to get out of their own regional to move on. So winning game 1. So I think that's the big thing for them is they just need to focus on game 1, whatever that looks like, and taking it a game at a time and knowing that all that matters is now.
Miranda, one last thing before I let you go. What thing do you want to see from Texas A&M to maintain their momentum and not let Oklahoma do to them what they did to Arkansas yesterday?
Their key is their offense. So I think just to continue to put pressure on Oklahoma, they're going to have to put a lot of pressure on Sam Landry and Oklahoma's defense. A&M is fast. They have so many different ways of scoring, right? Like they have speed, but they also can mash the ball out of the yard. So that ability to have that many things working well for you is really hard to defend. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they attack Sam Landry, but also to see how Sam Landry attacks their offense, right? So I think it's going to be a big test for Sam Landry. So I'm really excited to see that game. I'm really crossing my fingers that the weather holds off, because it's going to be a really fun matchup to see A&M go against the Oklahoma Sooners. So I really would love to see, if the Aggies want to win this game, for them to come in hot, ready to go, inning 1, putting a lot of pressure on Oklahoma, get them on their heels early, because the second that Oklahoma grabs the momentum, they are not giving it back. I think that's the biggest key. So Oklahoma knows how to keep calm if they lose a lead or if they go down early. And then once they get just an inch, like they're able to take it a long way. So that's going to be the key for A&M. I think their offense needs to show up big.
See, she's a pro at this. Immediate now. I wouldn't even have to ask her for keys to game. She just broke down the keys for both teams in this SEC championship game, where the winner will likely be the number 1 overall national seed on Selection Sunday night. I have to ask, what's it been like having Justin around for a week? How many Dr. Peppers has he had?
He's had 0. I've seen him as 0.
Wait,
Yeah, he says
wait.
he's a big Alani guy now. So he likes the Alani Peach energy drinks. So anybody out there trying to get on his good side, bring him. Yeah, he's not I didn't see him have one Dr. Pepper, and there were free Dr. Peppers everywhere. Like Dr. Pepper was sponsoring the SEC tournament. They were everywhere. I didn't see him have one. But it was great. He was very helpful, helped me a lot with coordinating interviews with SIDs, and it was great.
I'm shocked. That is shocking. That might be the most shocking thing of the whole week.
That is going to be more shocking news than anything that we see tomorrow night on our D1 Softball Selection Show, which Amanda will be a part of with Jenna Becerra and myself and Eric Lopez and the cast of hundreds. 6:30, we're going live, and we'll have our instant reactions at 7 o'clock. And Amanda, I told Eric before we went on the air that I got a surprise when we make our picks for tomorrow night. It's going to be interesting. Well, let me put it this way. We're going to be on No Context Softball tomorrow night. And what I don't know.
Oh, boy. I have no idea what he's talking about, but it's Vic. It's always wild there.
He came in yesterday. That's all I'm going to say.
Hey, in all seriousness, awesome job this week covering the SEC tournament. You've been posting obviously some great interviews with players there. What are you hoping to do here on Championship Saturday?
Thank you very much. Well, I am going to be locked in, hopefully watching an on-time and uninterrupted SEC tournament game, and then just keeping up with all the rest of the scores. I'm excited to see how this is going to shape out and who's getting those automatic bids. And I can't wait to see some really good reactions of some teams knowing that their season is not over on social media. I think that's such a special part, but really excited. I can't believe it's already here, but can't wait to be a softball fan.
All right, I'm going to give you some positive mojo. There you see the screen here. That's the field right there. The field. Look at that. Not a cloud to be found in Oklahoma City, on a stadium you know very well. Have had some memorable moments. It's beautiful to watch in person games here. You know that as well. So hopefully you get similar weather today in Athens, Georgia, for the SEC championship game. Thanks for joining us, Amanda. Can't wait to talk to you on Sunday night.
Thank you, guys. Thanks. Talk to you guys soon.
All right, that is Amanda Lorenz joining us there. And there we go, folks. We just went around the Power Four conferences, folks. Nobody could say they've done that.
And Justin McLeod has not had a single Dr. Pepper. That's why I had to get up and walk away for a moment, because Eric's got the sun ready to go. Eric, I do want to ask your thoughts on the Big 12, because I know you're going to get lineups probably within the next 15 minutes or so before we go off the air. What do you want to see from Texas Tech going into this matchup? Because we feel that Texas Tech is in prime position to host, number 19 in the RPI as of this morning, as you highlighted earlier. What do you want to see from Texas Tech to double up with the regular season championship they won earlier?
Well, I want to see, first of all, is Nyesha going to be in the circle to start the game, or will it be Chloe Riasetto? So that's the first thing I'll be looking at. Also, Alexa Langliers didn't play yesterday at second base. Apparently the team has got a little bit of a flu bug going on there. I think she was under the weather. I don't know what her status will be for this game. So that's the other thing I'll be looking forward to seeing in the starting lineup. I mean, it's amazing that you set a Big 12 record scoring all those runs without her. And then I'm also interested to see who Arizona goes with, because as we talked at the beginning of the show, Victor, Devin Netz came in relief in the UCF game, went deep in that ball game, got the win, started the game yesterday, pitched a good chunk of that game against Iowa State. So I'm very curious to see what Caitlin Lowe and her staff decide to do. Do they go with Marana Stoddard? Do we go somewhere in a different direction in the championship game? And so I think that's going to be fascinating with two teams. One of those, we're going to see history here, one way or the other. We're either going to see Texas Tech win its first ever Big 12 championship tournament and, hoist a trophy, or we're going to see Arizona in its year one as a member of the Big 12 win a Big 12 championship with Mike Kendrea in attendance. He's been here all week behind home plate. I asked Caitlin Lowe about that in the press conference. He's been amazing. He's bringing him Uber Eats while they're doing scouting here at the stadium. He's been like their tour person. Anything they could help. He's been here and he's enjoyed being back here at Oklahoma City. They haven't been back here since 2022, the last time Arizona made the World Series. So those are things I'm kind of looking forward to. It's going to be different. There will be, it's been it'll be interesting to see how both teams handle this game. Both teams, like I said, are going to host. There might be some questions about seeding, maybe. But other than that, I think both teams are hosting. So I think how they approach this game will be fascinating, how they go in the circle and try to win a championship. Remember, these two teams played in the regular season in Arizona. Texas Tech won 2 out of 3. Arizona beat Kennedy in game 1 of that series. Texas Tech had to come from behind and win the series, which was a huge turning point, because I think if Texas Tech doesn't win that series, they may not be in position to host right now. So that was a big series win for them, and I think they've done enough to host there this year. So that's some of the storylines I think to watch with this game starting at noon Eastern with Eric Freed, Madison Shipman, Danielle Laurie, and Morgan Uber will be on the broadcast there. So it'll be cool. I talked to Laurie and Shipman yesterday. This will be the first time they work together in the booth for a broadcast. They've obviously worked together in the studio role at the World Series. So that'll be fascinating. As Eric Freed joked, he's got the two of them in the same booth along with the sideline Morgan Uber. It means he doesn't need to talk. So that's kind of how that goes. And I think it'll be set the tone for a big championship day. The American going opposite of that, Vic. Yes. North Texas versus South Florida. Bubble implications there that could impact teams in the Big Ten and everything. If South Florida wins, I think the American's a 2-bid league with FAU and USF. Where It gets interesting is if North Texas wins, because they get the automatic bid, FAU will be in, the South Florida still get in, and they make it a 3-bid American league, or is it a 2-bid league and South Florida maybe gets their bid stolen? Who knows? That's why if you're South Florida, Victor, you're at home. You need to take care of business because you don't want that scenario to play out and then now be sweating on Sunday night.
And we've seen this, and USF has been in this exact scenario before. Well, first real Inner Circle Live on a YouTube channel was at the American Championship in 2016, where they lost to Tulsa in the championship game. And we were there a couple of years ago where UCF put the ham on USF in the championship game on the Bulls' home field. So
semi-final game, yeah.
In the final game, yes. We had Ryan Urquhart on last night on our live show. We'll be doing the wraparound coverage with Savannah Collins and Allison Kahn. I'll be starting at the bottom of the hour on ESPN Plus. And he referenced how USF should be using more power to get to this point, tying a single season school record in home runs. Now, if you're North Texas, do they throw Anderson again? Do they go by committee or hopefully save Anderson or bring him home down the stretch? It's going to be fascinating to see what happens. And, of course, bubble implications, as you highlighted. One tournament I do want to bring up, we haven't talked about much. The Southland Conference, they went to a championship series format. They had 2 pods last weekend, and as expected, McNeese State and Southeastern Louisiana are in the championship series. McNeese took game 1 on Thursday. Southeastern took game number 2 in a thriller last night. Game 3 will be tonight. Look, whoever wins that championship, you do not want to see them in your regional. Southeastern came very close to making it to a regional final last year. And, of course, we all highlighted what McNeese did 2 years ago, coming 3 outs away from a stunning victory in Seattle in the regional versus Washington. So the Southland I'm looking forward to. The Atlantic Sun, North Florida, can Jeff Conrad, Allison Benning break through against Eastern Kentucky? North Florida, same position they were in last year, Eric. They only need to win 1 game. Eastern Kentucky, who they beat to get to the championship game last night, they had to beat the Ospreys twice. The Ospreys hoping to finish what happened with them last year. That's just some of the notable other conferences going to be taking place. The American East, the Northeast Conference, hoping to finish today. If not, they'll get their championship their bids decided on Sunday. There'll be one bid leagues in all likelihood, but we'll keep an eye on that. Of course, you can follow that on d1softball.com with our scoreboard. Mr. Lopez, before we wrap up, your final thoughts as we get ready for Championship Saturday.
I know people in the chat are asking about bids and how many. I think the Big Ten, as of now, have 7. I think Big Ten teams, but that could decrease depending on what happens.
I think the Big Ten could drop to as low as 5 teams.
It very well could. What happens in the Mountain West Championship game? Fresno State in the front bird against San Diego State. San Diego State has to beat them twice. That could have a significant impact on the field.
San Diego State has the home field advantage, so that will help the Aztecs.
You got the Big West Championship game, CSUN going up against UC Santa Barbara. Joe Evans versus Charlotte Morgan. One of those two people will be in the NCAA tournament. What a storyline that is.
And Joe Evans trying to become one of the first of maybe
become the first to take 4 teams to the NCAA tournament.
Wow.
Shelly Carlin, our very own Shelly Carlin, is covering the Big West Championship. Could be a historic day out there as well. The Sun Belt Championship game is also about to start later on today. Coastal Carolina versus JMU on that one. All right, Vic, let's go quickly. I want your picks. I'm going to go through the certain conferences here, starting with the American, USF against North Texas. I pointed out all the scenarios there. What is your pick?
I never bet against an Anderson in the championship situation. I'm going North Texas, stealing a bid and giving the American 3 teams to get to the tournament come Selection Sunday.
I will go with the home team in South Florida. They're due to win a conference championship. This team has been unique. We had Josie Foreman on the podcast earlier this year. I think I'm going to go with the Bulls, and they have too much arms for North Texas, but it should be a heck of a title game. That one. Sun Belt, Coastal Carolina on the bubble. Could really make that a moot point if they beat JMU. And JMU, a team that I picked in the preseason to win the Sun Belt, had a rough regular season, but Lauren Laporte has found it.
At the right time. They have
found it. This game is up in Troy, Alabama. We knew the Sun Belt would be wild, and it has been. Who do you got in the Sun Belt championship game?
I'm going with the Beach Chickens. I'm going Coastal Carolina to take home the title.
This is a tough one. This is a tough one.
Do you ride out with your pick all the way, or do you go with Coastal?
Well, see, keep in mind, JMU just won 2 out of 3 against Coastal the other week, but Coastal won the last game of that series. So I'm going to go with Coastal because I know bubble teams are rooting for Coastal, but I think that could be a sneaky good game. Like I would keep an eye on one.
Did you say our good friend Kaylin Arnold's going to be calling the Sun Belt Championship?
No, that's Kenzie Fowler will be on the call with Roy Philpott there. Kaylin Arnold, good segue, will be calling this USA Championship game on CBS Sports Network, calling Liberty versus Jacksonville State. Single game. Whoever wins the championship. That changed the format, so no, Liberty doesn't have to beat them twice. That's a little funky. A lot of people on the bubble are going to be watching this game very closely, rooting for Liberty. Will they be happy at the end of that game, Victor, these bubble teams?
Yes, they will, because Liberty will take home the championship over Jacksonville State. By the way, 2 former A-Sun teams playing in the Conference USA Championship. Just wanted to point that out. So I'm going with Liberty Bibbity to take home the title.
I agree with you there. And speaking of A-Sun, good segue. You mentioned it, North Florida against Eastern Kentucky. I think when you really think about the whole year in the A-Sun, Vic, these have been the 2 best teams, but they haven't played because of the format. They're all in different divisions. That's a whole other story. North Florida has been dominant all year. Does Jeff Conrad and the Ospreys get to the tournament for the first time in program history?
Yes. Allison Benning caps off one of the greatest single seasons in A-Sun history. She strikes out 10, hits the game-winning home run. North Florida makes the tournament for the first time ever and finishes their story like Cody Rose finished his story last year.
Eastern Kentucky has to win twice. Right? Yes. They got to win twice. North Florida only have to win one.
Benning shut them down when they played in the semifinal on Friday. So it's going to be Maddie Rutan versus Allison Benning, 2 of the best 2-way players in the sport. That's going to be on ESPN Plus. Looking forward to following that one as well.
You're rooting for North Florida on that one. I'm big friends with that staff. I hope I'm going to be watching that. Very nervous for them there. All right, I'm going to go Reese Davis here. We got to go quick, as he likes to say on game day. Except we don't have a headgear. Maybe you do. Mountain West. San Diego State has to beat Fresno State twice. Can they pull it off at home?
They will force an if game, but Fresno State wins it.
Stacey May Johnson, a lot of rumors, could be a front runner for the Iowa job. Iowa former alum. That would be huge for her. That would be probably bad news for Nevada. I don't see 3 bids for the Mountain West in that scenario. I do think
it's likely going to be a 1-bid league if San Diego State wins, 2 bids if Fresno State wins.
I think so. I'm going to go San Diego State to win it at home. There,
Okay.
Big West. Which legend is going to be back in the tournament? Is it Joe Evans in Santa Barbara or Charlotte Morgan and CSUN? Santa Barbara has to beat them twice.
We're going with friend of the podcast, Charlotte Morgan here. We've had her on our live streams before. I'm going with CSUN and the Matadors to get the automatic bid.
Very good there, to say the least. All right, let's go to the power conferences here. Big Ten with Jeff Allen. Or with Jeff Brown. I got a text from Jeff Allen. That's why I was thrown off, folks. That's what happens when you do live shows on the phone. Just throws you off completely. Michigan, UCLA. Michigan, UCLA. 20 years ago, they played for the national championship on this very field that I am right there.
Yes.
On that field. Maybe I'll give you a better look here, folks. See, look at
that field right there, ladies and gentlemen. That field right there. Samantha Finley hit the 2-run home run. By the way, that was the first year of the best 2 out of 3 championship series. Oh, by the way.
Well, they're playing a single game in West Lafayette. Who takes the Big Ten title? Does Michigan go ahead and lock up a spot, or does UCLA in the year 1 of the Big Ten take the crown?
Well, I said Samantha Finley hit a walk-off home run 20 years ago. Samantha Finley ain't walking through that door. I'm going with UCLA. If for nothing else, I like to stay employed by D1 softball with Shelly Carlin. So I'm going with the Bruins to take on the Big Ten championship.
I'll go with the Bruins. I think they got too much firepower for Michigan, but I think Michigan's in the field regardless of that result. Jenna Becerra we had on earlier, ACC, FSU, Clemson. Do the Noles, who won the regular season title, make it a regular season and tournament title, or does John Rittman and Clemson get the tournament title?
I got Florida State. Michaela Enfield, 2 home runs. She's the tournament MVP.
SEC, it's going to start earlier than planned. I'm agreeing. If I don't say anything, it means I'm agreeing with you.
Fair enough.
Which is probably bad news for those teams that we're picking.
Congratulations to James Madison. Congratulations to Jacksonville State. Congratulations to UC Santa Barbara. Congratulations to Michigan. Congratulations to Clemson. Please clip this and show it for us for tonight's show.
No, please don't. Yes, no, we're good. SEC championship game. The number 1 national seed could be on the line in this game, especially I think Oklahoma, A&M is in great spot to be the 1 seed. Maybe if they lose, that could be a conversation, but I think the committee, my guess would be whoever wins this game is the number 1 seed. Who will that be, Vic?
I'm rolling with the champs until the champs get knocked off. I'm going with the Sooners riding that momentum. High-scoring affair. Highest-scoring SEC championship game ever with these 2 lethal offenses.
If Oklahoma loses this game, the seeding for them will be interesting because of their non-conference schedule strength. They may not be necessarily the number 2 seed, which is where I might put them in, but that'll be a storyline where they're seeded on Selection Sunday. But I don't think it'll matter because I don't think it'll matter. I think Oklahoma finds a way to win this game and win a conference championship and celebrate on the field like they've done many a times on this field right here.
Oh, yeah, that field, yes.
It's a little weird.
I think it's the last 4 seasons celebrating on that field.
Very good. We'll go with that. But that should be a good one there on that crew. And then finally,
segue, the Big 12.
Finally, here we are live. The Big 12 championship game here. You got Texas Tech in their black jerseys, and you've got Arizona right there. Go with the tops there, Vic. You see, you can kind of give a better description here as I show the audience. You see Jerry Glasgow there by the dugout for Texas Tech. We're about 25, 30 minutes away from first pitch. We don't have starting lineups. You see Brett Yormark, by the way. That is the commissioner, Brett Yormark, who just got extended by the Big 12. He's on the field in this game. He is attending this game. I know he did an interview, from what I understand, with the ESPN folks. Vic, kind of your thoughts on this matchup?
Well, Texas Tech, you're dealing with I talk about two-way players of Manny Rutan and Allison Benning from Eastern Kentucky and North Florida, respectively. You're dealing with 2 more great two-way players in Najee Kennedy and Devin Netz Big 10 pitcher, Big 12 pitcher of the year, Big 12 player of the year. I am going with Texas Tech to get the double up with the regular season and the tournament championship.
It's going to be interesting to see who pitches in this game. I think the fact that Nyjah Kennedy went 3 innings, Vic, I got to believe she wants that trophy. I think they want to make history. This team's motivated. They won the regular season title. They win the tournament, make a big exclamation point on this. I'm going to go with Texas Tech, who has not given up a run. Arizona's fallen behind in both games in this tournament. I don't think you can afford to do that in this matchup here in particular. So now that being said, if Chloe Riaceto starts, that could be interesting. That could make things a little tricky.
As well,
so I'm going to hedge my bet here because I was hoping to get the starting lineups before we went off the air because that could impact our decision. But so far, we do not have that. So it makes me wonder if both teams maybe are still thinking about it. I cannot see the bullpen from here at all. But you know what? We're live. Let's do something that nobody else can do, Vic. I'm going to give you a tour of the stadium. Why don't we just do that a little bit?
Yes, Mark. Yes, by the way, Mark. Yes, Mark, if you've been wondering, we have been on for an hour and a half early already. Yeah, that's what we do here. That's what we do in the circle.
And we're giving you access here that nobody else can. I've been the Big 12 folks. I want to thank has been incredible. The great staff has been fantastic. Love coming here. Love this beautiful facility. You've been here, Vic. It's tremendous. People keep asking that you need to come back. Not necessarily for the World Series. Just come back here in general.
I will. I've been given invitations many occasions, but I will cash in on said invitation. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Right. That is the booth for ESPN. We're not going to go in. We're going to leave them alone. That's where Eric Freed, Madison Shipman, Danielle Laurie are set up. We're going to go outside.
That would have been
this beautiful. It's going to be a little loud here, but I just want to show because CM Punk would like to say, Vic, is it great to be alive in Oklahoma City on a day like this? Look at this. I mean, it's a gorgeous day out here. Like it is. I've made this comparison. How's the sound, by the way, Vic? Let me know if I'm echoing or just sounding fine. Sounding good. So I've made this comparison, and you know this from a football reference. People get excited watching a college football game at the Rose Bowl. Mm-hmm. It's kind of how I feel about here watching a softball game here on these facilities. This is second to none. On a day like this, when this city is beautiful like it is here, granted, they're not in a good mood, Vic. They're not real happy with what happened with their NBA team last night. So it's not as jolly as it usually would be here because there are still little rumblings about what happened at the end of the game with Eric Gordon, which, that's a whole other story. But it's going to be fun over here.
By the way, Eric, our good friend Mark Barnett said, y'all crazy. Like, what? Going live at 10 o'clock and talking softball for an hour and a half? That ain't crazy. That's giving people what they want, Mark. That's what we do here.
Well, and guess what? We're going to be back on later tonight. Tell the audience when we'll be back later tonight.
We'll be on later on tonight around 9:30, 10 o'clock-ish. 10
o'clock. Let's do 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock Eastern. It'll be 9 over here Central. Yes, maybe I'll have my bracket done by then. Maybe I won't. Who knows? Depending on what games are going on at that point. Hopefully, all the games should be done by then, I would assume.
Well, the only games that will be still going on, the only game that will be wrapping up will be Game 3 of the Southland Championship between Southeastern and McNeese. All other championship games could potentially be done. Now, that doesn't mean all the bids will be finalized. Some of the American East, the Northeastern Conference will still have their tournaments going on Sunday. So that could impact what Eric does in his bracketology. But stay tuned and follow D1softball.com for all the latest news and information about Tournament Central, teams getting in, the field of 64, who's on the bubble, this, that, and the third. Oh, by the way, we may have our first official bid clinched in the Big South USC Upstate leading Winthrop 7-1 in the 5th inning. So USC Upstate, Chris Hawkins looking to officially punch the first bid to the NCAA tournament. They are 3 innings away or 2 runs away potentially from getting that situated. Again, you go to d1softball.com. Use the promo code NEWLOOK20. Get 20% off any subscription to the New Look. d1softball.com. Mr. Lopez, it is almost time for us to wrap up, sir. You're going to get lined up soon. We're going to have first pitch. It's time to crown some champions here on this day before Selection Sunday.
Should be a lot of fun, everybody. Hey, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Make sure you can watch this throughout the day. Thanks to our great crew. Thanks to Jeff Brown joining us in West Lafayette. Of course, watch his check out his coverage, read his work of the Big Ten championship coverage all week, and then including today's championship game. Jenna Becerra in Boston area covering the ACC championship game between Florida State and Clemson. Our Amanda Lorenz at the SEC covering Oklahoma and Texas A&M. I will be here covering the Big 12 championship game with post-game coverage following this game as well. Thanks to Riley, the behind-the-scenes expert who makes all this happen, especially the digital stuff. I've been bothering all week, so she's been fantastic in helping us on the coverage on the social media. All the players, coaches have commented and raved about all the great stuff on social media we're doing with the interviews and so forth. So, in video. So it's been a lot of fun there. Vic, good job by you, sir. Good job by you.
Good job by me. Good job by me. So let's everyone enjoy the softball, and we will see y'all 10 p.m. tonight. Get your caffeine ready. We're going to get you ready to go for Selection Sunday as only we can here in the circle on D1 Softball. Big 12 championship game coming up in about 20 minutes. We will talk to you. Is Okie State going to Arkansas? Jester, you'll have to find out tonight because Eric may have an answer to that question for you, sir. Top podcasters out. Good morning, softball. See y'all tonight.